The Yellow Metal Monster, Part 1. All was quiet in the forest. The towering trees swayed gently in the early morning breeze. Music from far, far away hung in the air and echoed across the mountainsides. It was the beginning of a perfect day. The dawn was breaking and the shadows of the night slowly crept away as the Indian sun rose from the east. The heat of the day was yet to come, and all in Kandikal was still. Far, far away, there was noise. The great yellow metal monster stirred itself from its sleep and coughed. Not once, not twice, but 3 times until it roared itself into life, as it had done the day before and the day before that too. It knew what it had to do, and do it it would. It knew no other way. The ground itself shook as it rumbled its way forwards, its metal tracks firm in their grip and sure in their purpose. On, and everything in its path laid flat. There was no stopping its journey. From within the jungle, tiny eyes peered with fear at this yellow metal monster. The monster had been quiet and asleep during the night, but now it was alive with anger. Terrified, the animals of the forest turned and fled higher into the hills, higher into the mountains, away from their homes and away from their fears. Squirrels, rabbits, monkeys, even the big cats all ran away in terror from this invader with its yellow skin and its fearsome mouth. They knew that they were no match for its terrible appetite. They had no choice. They had to leave, and leave they did, leaving nothing behind. And when they had gone, it was as though they had never even existed. But the man who rode astride this great yellow monster saw nothing of this. All he saw was the road ahead and the rupees that would soon be his. He wiped his brow, and the monster marched on. There was work to do. It had been a hard year for everyone. In the summer, the heat had been fierce, and the fires had been many. Through the night they had burnt, and for many days too. During the day, the huge burnt mountain tops could be seen still oozing smoke, whilst at night the forest fires lit up the blackest of nights. This was not the India the villagers wanted. But the monsoon had been bad also. The season where the rivers are refreshed and the soil gains its life had been brutal. There had been too much rain, far too much. The tiny streams had become huge rivers, and the rivers had become gushing cauldrons of death and destruction, cascading down the steep mountain sides. Higher up the valley, this year the Yamuna had brought more death than life. Its swirling waters had brought down huge boulders from the mountains, and the roads had been blocked. The boulders and the water had mixed together to form colossal, towering walls of surging water that had swept both houses and villages away. On these steepest of valleys, the spindly concrete legs of the houses had simply been snapped like twigs and carried away into the grey, chilling waters of the Yamuna, and then lost forever. Hundreds died, and the help never came. And when it did, it was too late. The damage had been done, and the rains had gone. For Yamunotri and its people, there was no future. The houses were gone, The hotels were gone. The shops were gone. The animals were gone. The soil was gone. But still, the people remained. The government saw all of this, and far away, decisions were made. Decisions that would affect Yamunotri and all those who'd lived in Uttarakhand. Decisions that they, the people, knew nothing about. And yet, the decisions were made. Their fate had been sealed. For Sapna, it was a normal day. It was a day like all the others she had known. And as usual, she had woken early and was up and busy. Kuldeep, her brother, was still fast asleep, and his snoring echoed through the house. But she didn't mind. She was used to it. After brushing her teeth, she joined her mother by the chula, and together they made chapati for breakfast and for her father to take to work. Her mother formed the dough into small white balls, and together they moulded and flipped them into perfect white circles, ready to be cooked. There were many hungry mouths and many chapati to make. Down below she heard the children gathering for the bus, and as quick as her nimble feet would allow, kissed her mother and father goodbye and ran down the mountain to join her excited friends. Kuldeep trailed on behind, but his long legs and certain step made sure that he too was ready and waiting as the school bus came round the corner, ready to take them to Kempty and to another day of learning. She gazed out of the window as the bus climbed the steep road out of Kandikal and towards Sanji. She was looking at her world. She looked at the mountain where her friends Charlie and Andy had once made their home and wondered what they were doing now. She looked across the Yamuna to Kandy where her friend Ronit's family lived, and then she looked at the road. There was one turn, tighter than the rest, that made her draw her breath. She always did. She sucked in one great big gulp of air and held it as tightly as she could whilst the bus went slowly around the corner. Here, there was no barrier to stop the cars and trucks from falling. Here, the floods had washed it away. And here, every time they tried to repair it, the rain washed the barrier away again. But as she was now safely round the bend, she let out her breath with one huge sigh, and the colour of her cheeks returned to normal. She smiled. It was going to be a good day. But meanwhile, miles away from Sapna, the yellow monster carried out its job of destruction. It pushed into the broken houses and shops and swept them away as easily as the rains had done before. It spurted smoke from its exhaust and growled from deep within its powerful engine. Tall trees that had grown for hundreds of years were ripped from their roots and pushed tumbling down the mountainside. The man on top of the yellow monster looked over his shoulder and smiled. He would take many rupees home that night. He tapped the gauges and flicked the switches. Yes, his yellow metal monster had done him proud. That was 3 villages that he had driven through that day. He had lost count of how many buildings he destroyed, but he knew that it was many. He had done well. And the road that he was building would be bigger and better too. How did he know? Because he had told it had been better. And that's what decisions are all about. Decisions made by other people. They always make things better. And who was he to disagree?